Everybody, welcome, welcome. We're live, right? All right, all right. Everybody, welcome today to coming into today's masterclass. This is the Top Producers Masterclass. Myself, my name is Ian Jensen. I'm Anthony Glenn's assistant here at the brokerage, and we are going to be covering the majority of the content today. So I need you all to hopefully bring out a pen and get your phone ready. There's a couple slides I'm going to want you to take a screenshot of, and we are going to kick it going here. So everybody, put a 1 in the chat and tell me where you are coming from right now, so that way if you see me looking off screen, that's what's going on. Tell me where you are and where you're coming from, and then we will get started. So that way I know a little bit about who you are, and then I can kind of personalize this to make it a little bit more fun. All right, but without further ado, we will be getting going here anytime. Let's see. Hello, can you all hear me? All right, cool, cool, cool. Hey, everybody. All right, cool. Thanks for participating. I appreciate it. All right. Can you put the slides up on the screen, please? All right, everybody. Are you still looking at me or looking at... But get ready. This is actually a very, very useful class, okay? So I'm going to do my best to bring as much life as I can to the minutia of administration. But I really hope you guys are able to take something away from this, because the way you format your business as you get started, if you are a new agent and like you're an agent who's already cut their teeth, or you've been doing this for 40 years, there might be a solution in here that might be able to add a little bit more profitability, if not mobility, to your business model. All right, so without further ado, we are going to move in. All right, so Scottsdale, North Carolina. We got California and Florida. Hell yeah, love it. Angela, let's talk after this. I got a question for you. If you're in LA, we got a client over there that needs some help right now for his rental. So maybe pick your brain a little bit about the market. All right, everybody. So this is an excerpt of our mentorship program. So you'll see on the screen there, the guy on the left is Tony, Bruno, and myself. We are the Wire Mentors, the Win in Real Estate Mentors. And we created this class to make sure that we gave the people in our network more access to great information, so that way as they're going along their process, they can benefit from the trials and tribulations that we have all kind of experienced, and that we put into this course to make sure that everybody has the best chance to learn. All right, because hey, smart people learn from experience, but geniuses learn from other people's problems. All right, so hopefully we can provide you something that could be useful to you in your next adventure. All right, so we're going to cover administration today, but as you see, the mentorship course covers business planning, marketing, farming, lead generation, and then listing presentations and of an effective daily routine, amongst other things. Okay. As you see on the screen, right? Day 1, the administration is the foundation of your business. Okay? This is an extremely important thing to think about as you're planning your company, right? Because you want to make sure that you are taking the steps forward after, you don't want to leave the house and then start getting dressed, right? You want to be prepared to go on and take on the day, and to be able to route all the different, income and expenses that you create effectively in the way that creates the most opportunity for, especially speaking, your tax liability. All right, we'll get into that later. I am not an accountant. This is not tax advice, but I want you to be aware that the biggest expense you're probably going to experience in your business career, it will be your tax liability. So the better formation we have to route opportunities to take advantage of the tax laws, then the better off you'll be, right? Because hell, I mean, you could put that extra savings into your retirement, whatever, you do you. I'm not a financial planner either, right? I just save my money well. All right, but here we go. Day one. All right, so this is the idea, right? So this is more catered towards our brand new agents, this particular one. You want to have a start date committed to, right? So if this is, you want a start date to get your license, if this is a start date to have your corporate structure, business set up, you want to have your EIN by this date, you want to make sure that we set some sort of date on the calendar, because you can't hit a target that you don't know exists, all right? You are going, whether you give yourself a month or 6 months, it's going to take the same amount of time depending on how committed you are to solving this problem for yourself. So let's get a date on the calendar where you are going to have your particular goal in mind. All right. So as a quick check of the community that we have here with us, who here on the community has an LLC, an S corp, or a C corp for their company? Put something in the chat to tell us the way you run your particular company, and then we'll kind of see what sort of ideas that we're currently running with, and then I'll customize it from there. Okay. But as we're moving on here, so the next phase here, we got an LLC. Good, Angela. It's a good start. And who else is just getting their checks made out to them themselves as a person and putting it in their personal savings account or personal checking account? It's all right. No judgment. I did it too for a minute. Okay, so for starters though, if you are getting your commission checks to you, the person, you're missing out. All right, so I'm just going to throw that out there and, call it as it is, right? Because if you are doing that, there's opportunities that you are missing out on. And we'll get into this in another section. And Tony's really going to talk about this when we go into the retirement planning. So I really want everyone to be aware that if you are taking your checks as a person, meaning I sell 123 Main Street, I get $5,000 in commission, and it comes to Ian Jensen, the person. No, don't do that. Oh, do we have a question? Hot mic? Hot mic. All right, cool. All right, everybody. So here, we're going to be moving along here. This is a quick overview of what we're going to be covering today, right? Business plan, what you need to have in your business plan to make sure that you are thinking of the right opportunities and liabilities within your business environment. Building your brand, otherwise known as creating a successful business. That's what you want to know, and that's what we're going to teach you how to do. Corporate structure, right? These are the legal structures that you can use to formulate your business. Very, very important. And there is a critical element of gain here that we want to make sure that you share with you, okay? And tax planning, the ultimate benefit of using the corporate structure. For your reference, we are not accountants and we are not financial planners. This is for fun. It's not for fun, but this is serious. But I want to let you know, don't sue me for saying something. I am not a professional in accountant or financial planning. I'm a real estate professional, and I benefit from using these particular strategies in my own business. All right, cool. Next slide. All right, everybody. So first things first, it sounds silly, like we're going over administration, but believe it or not, building a brand has to do with building a perception to the public. And part of that perception to the public is your gosh dang face, right? Your face is your logo. I've heard that somewhere. I think it's Ryan Serhant says that, right? Your face is your logo. So you want to make sure that your image is as optimally presented to the public as possible. Obviously, if, we probably all seen that. Some of y'all ladies out there are as guilty as us, but if your picture is 37 years old, get a new picture taken, right? If you're, a couple different hair colors and 10 pounds different than what you used to look like, get a new picture. They want to see who you are. All right. They want to know what your face is. People are doing business with people. They don't want to see some logo. They don't want to see some, flashy font. They want to see your face. All right. So make sure that you are creating a professional image that is most transferable to the public. All right. So you want to share your story. So that's one of the first things we talk about. Your story is unique to yourself. People are going to do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? So if you have the best opportunity to be as authentic as possible when you share your story. So this we'll talk into this more when it comes to your social media, but bring your story to your brand so that way they can understand where you are coming from and what past experiences you already have. All right, so those past experiences are going to come to you and give you the opportunity to grow and mesh with people that are in the business just like yourself. For instance, I got a background in construction, right? So when I was growing up, worked in construction. When I needed extra money, I always went back to it just because I could jump in there. So with that little aspect of being able to communicate to people, I can talk to those who I've already have experience with it, or are from that lifestyle, or their parents are in that. Like there's just a million different people you can connect with that may have an opportunity to gain from your experience. For example, if somebody has an idea like, oh, this kitchen's dark, and I'm like, oh, hey, you could put a window there. That kind of thing. It gives you a little bit more authenticity to your story. All right, professional pictures. Boom, professional pictures. Don't skimp on your professional pictures, okay? You don't have to get 15 different photos, 9 different suits, right? The right photographer knows how to take the picture with the right format, so that way you can edit that picture. If you want a picture with a black suit, you want a picture with a blue suit, a picture like this that you see a Tony on the screen, the right formatted picture with the right technology, that photo can be altered effectively. So that way you don't have to have 17 different pictures taken, because it costs money to have multiple packages arranged, right? So just get one really good picture that you like, and that way you could utilize for a couple years in your particular marketing. For instance, if you've seen mine, I don't know, like this boy, right? I don't know, you can see it on here. No, it's dead center, right? I've had the same picture for like 5 years. I'm overdue. I need to go get another picture. All right. Could be more. Maybe I could have Perez here put some gray hair in there for me, right? But so what I'm moving forward here is like your digital presence, all right, because this matters, right? You're going to use this across the board on all your different marketing, right? You're going to use this on your business cards. You're going to use this on your listing signs. You're going to use this as your profile picture. You're going to use this as different marketing on your flyers, on this and that, right? So you want to make sure that this is as optimal as a picture as possible that is going to be perceived by the public. And don't try to Photoshop a bunch of muscles in there or something crazy, like whatever your style is, right? It's because people are still going to see you, right? And if all of a sudden it's a big joke when they see somebody that looks all filtered, and then they see somebody who's got a couple gray hairs in real life, it's going to kind of set them off, or they're going to laugh at you. So you don't want to mess up your credibility day one, okay? And then online visibility. This is a whole program within itself, right? But we want to make sure that you have the baseline access to social media pages, a Google account, and then make sure you start getting a couple Google reviews. All right, if you got to call mom, dad, sister, brother, whatever, get a couple Google reviews on the board, then make it happen. And then that's something I've worked too that works pretty well, is guilting people into it. All right, so this is a little trick. I'm going to break it down right here. So who wants to hear my little guilt trip about how to get more Google reviews? Put a 1 in the chat. Come on now. Who's with us? Yeah, thank you. All right, so here we go. This is a little simple guilt trip. All right, so everybody, hey, nice to meet you, John, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Thank you for using our business today. What I need from you, and this is something that I need your help with, right? Ask for help. People like to know that they're helping somebody. Is that I get in trouble if I don't get Google reviews. Do you mind submitting one for me and my business today after you did a good job? Or shoot, do it before you did a good job. If you told a funny joke, send it over to them, right? You want to make sure you encourage them to do like, hey, I'm helping this person. And then tell them like, oh, I'm going to receive something negative if this doesn't happen. Guilt them into it. Or say like, for instance, another person that used to work for our company used to say, hey, we're having a competition in our company about who can get the most Google reviews this month. Do you mind helping me out? Boom. All right. It's a really good one to go through. All right. But we won't spend too much time on this. But long story short, get as many Google reviews as you can. They matter, right? Because they just like you kind of like you're looking for a restaurant, right? If you see one with 0 reviews or like 2 reviews, you're gonna think it's a fake or it's not in business anymore, right? So you're gonna move on. Make sure that people can search you, make sure they find your name, and then make sure that you have reviews. And it's better if you have reviews where people make a comment also. All right, so without further ado, we are going into social media presence. All right, so we could have a whole class on this one, but I want to make sure you guys are thinking about this, and I got a good example I'm going to share with you, okay? Please, next slide. All right, so you want to have across the board the big, well, actually we call them the big 5, right? So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, what do we have here? LinkedIn, and what's the last one? I can't think of it right now. Having a brain fart. And Twitter, thank you. All right, so Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Have these accounts ready. Have them in your name. Have your professional information on there. Have your brokerage information. All right, and then the big impact of what I'm trying to show you here is I'm going to take my calculator. All right, so this is just raw data, numbers that I'm going to share with you. All right, let's hope I can see it on the screen. Yes, okay. All right, so what I'm going to do. So there's 5, the big 5 I'm talking about, right? Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Take the same picture and post it on 5 different sites. Hell, Facebook makes it really easy, right? You only post 1, you got 2. All right, so this is what you do. Excuse me. Clear. Okay, so you have 5 posts a day times 5 sites. Excuse me. Yeah, so you do 1 post a day across 5 sites, 5 days a week, right? Equals 25, right? You know that one was coming. All right, so you get 25 impressions a week. So times 52. Do it every week. All right, so that's 1,300 impressions. Okay, so now this is the big picture what I'm trying to reach to you as. Imagine we have a 5 times 5%. Imagine we have a 5% conversion rate. Shoot, you know what? Hold on, screw that. Let's do this better. You know, let's really make it realistic. All right. So 5 times 5 equals times 52 equals 1,300. So times 1% equals 13. So if you could get a 1% conversion of the impact that you're getting 13 different sales. All right, so show me some information in the chat. What is the average sales price in your area? Give me some impact here so that way we can use this real time. What is the average impact in your area? Or what is the average commission in your area? So 3,500, okay, we got 350, 300. Okay, let's use 300 as an example. All right, thank you for participating. All right, so here we go. Hopefully I can still do this upside down. All right, 350, 1, 2, 3, times 2.5% equals 87.50. That's your average commission. All right, so times 13. That is a 6-figure business you built off of just your phone while you laid in bed before you got your day started. Okay, and this is not complex. This is really, really easy, and it has never been easier to get different content for your business. Hell, go to ChatGPT and write in what is the top 10 struggles that somebody experiences in my zip code when it comes to buying a house. Boom, top 10 problems. Then there you go. You could be a problem solver and then create your content off of those different problems that they experience. Okay, that's an easy one. Take that one, run with it. You can go away crazy there. I love using ChatGPT. It's a lot of fun. All right, and if you want, hey everybody, put a 2 in the chat if we want to make a class later about how I personally use ChatGPT in my real estate business. All right, thank you. And then put a 1 in the chat if you thought that was a good idea, what I just gave you right now, like the top 10 struggles that buyer experiences in my zip code. Boom. Use it. Use it and tag me. Hey, everybody, at Ian_Jensen_realtor. Tag my ass in that thing. I want to get some credit. No, I'm just playing. I hope you all have a great time. All right. But yeah, please use that one. It's a great little trick. All right. Next slide. All right. So wait a minute. We are moving along here. We got to start cranking. Social media presence. There is more than just this. You know, Chatter, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest. Use them all. If they exist, use them, post them. It's free. You can do it on your phone and you can do it for yourself, and it's extremely low impact, and then you can create some kind of opportunity. And if you're somebody who's got a real great personality, shoot, get on TikTok, YouTube, whatever, and start a channel about whatever you got, whatever you're doing. If you're doing something cool, if you're doing remodels, if you're doing, helping the homeless, whatever. If that's you, if you got something that's a little bit more elaborate than just your traditional buy and sell properties, get it out there. Tell your story. People love to hear your story. People do it for entertainment nowadays, okay? Next slide, please. All right, corporate structure, meat and potatoes. Here we go. All right, so corporate structures. You need a corporate structure. Corporate structures. You need a corporate structure. LLC, S Corp, C Corp. If you're, like I said before, if you're doing a sole proprietor, you're missing out on an opportunity. Okay, corporate structures, right? You can avoid personal liability. They can't take your house if you screw up. You know, this, like, realtors typically don't have as much legal exposure as some, if I had like an excavating company. But let's face it here, there is liability that you will experience. And then if you are legally on the hook and they can take, and you, the person, owns your company and or has committed the crime and owns the asset, well, guess what? There's a link and they can stake stuff from you. You are liable. So be careful. And this is why we want to use these different structures, so you have the opportunity to protect yourself. All right. Because let's face it, things happen and people are greedy. Okay. So the benefits of it, you are the owner. You are not you are just control. That you control this thing. You do not operate this thing. Hold on, excuse me. You are the owner. You're not the entity. All right. It sounds confusing, but there's a very distinct difference of being the person responsible and the company who is responsible. Okay. All right. So you want to make sure this thing's set up so that you are receiving a salary, not just taking money off the top, because it gives you more tax opportunities. Okay. You have a better opportunity of mitigating risk involved, so that way you can account for your taxes better. Okay. So you want to maximize, like I said here, right at the bottom of the page, you maximize your expense report to reduce your income, because you get taxed relative to your profit. Okay. So the less we can show for profit, the more money you can use in your business, the better, right? It's better to spend $20,000 on marketing than $20,000 on, a tax return to Uncle Sam. All right. So, and then obviously you can gift money to your different, so you can utilize it and then put it into your family's pockets. And hiring family, we can do, actually this is wrong, we can go up to $15,000 where you can gift to your children if they work in your business tax-free. Okay, that's a huge implication, right? If you have 3 kids, guess what? You can offload up to 45 grand into your household. I mean, yeah, it's going to your kids, but let's face it. Old Jimmy and little Susie aren't getting $15K to go and spend it on Skittles. We're making sure that money is being appropriately handled within the company, but on paper it's going to the kids legally. All right, we're going to talk about this more. Next slide, please. Okay, LLC. All right, so LLC is one of the best opportunities out there, and you can have a giant LLC, you can have a very simple LLC, but the beauty of it is that it gives you a framework to be able to scale to your specific needs. LLC is, like I say, it's like the duct tape of the business world. You could use it for anything, right? You could use it for not anything. You could use it for a variety of different functions because it has a lot of manipulability, all right? So it stands for a limited liability company, not limited liability corporation, in case you haven't picked that up yet. So the beauty of it is that most states don't restrict the ownership, all right? So that means that an LLC could be owned by another LLC. The LLC could be owned by a child. The LLC could be owned by a couple people. The LLC can be has a variety of different ways that you can take ownership. It could be a trust. Like I just made my trust, and I made my trust the beneficiary of my LLCs, and I control the trust, right? So now I got 2 layers to separate me in case some shenanigans goes down, okay? So that's what I want to say. Like, it gives you more opportunity to be protected, all right? So there's no maximum number of members, all right? So it can be a single member, it can be a corporation or partnerships. All these different entities can take ownership. So it gives you more opportunity if you want to create a real estate investment company, or a construction company, or a real estate sales company, or any of these different opportunities within your real estate business. So that way you have opportunities of taking advantage of the tax liabilities like I was mentioning before, okay? All right, everybody, questions before we keep going? All right, put a 1 in the chat if you want to go forward and keep pushing. All right, so keep it going. And thank you. Okay, so now you're good. You can go to the next slide. All right, so pass through taxation. Thank you, John, for participating. Good man. I appreciate y'all. Everybody, please have some interaction in the chat. It really helps me know that I am actually saying something that's worthwhile. If I'm moving too fast, you got questions, put it in the chat. If it's something I can handle on real time, I'll handle it right away. But please give me some interaction, pay attention, so that way I can kind of make sure that everybody is on the same page with us. Okay, so the beautiful thing about an S Corp, right? S Corp and LLCs both have this in common, which is referred to as pass-through taxation. We're going to talk about this in the next couple slides here. But what this means is that you don't have to pay taxes twice. Okay, that sounds like confusing. Like, hey, how the hell can you tax me twice? But it's true, right? If you are a C Corp, which is a more sophisticated type of corporation, if you're a C Corp, the corporation has to pay taxes, and then the shareholders have to pay taxes on their income. So double taxation, right? You think you're mad about your tax liability now, all right? But there's a reason for it. There's more opportunity with that type of corporate structure, all right? So shareholder reporting. So same deal. Like here, you can have different you can issue shareholder equity within an S Corp, but there is some limitations compared to a C Corp. For instance, residency and different sometimes some age restrictions. Hello, hi John, how you doing? Appreciate it. All right, can you make the view bigger? All right, thank you. All right, so shareholders flow report. Okay, so we want to what's going on here? I'm sorry here, stand by. We're getting something figured out here, technically speaking. Okay, like I said, it avoids double taxations and you have entity level responsibility. That's a very important thing to look at, right? Read that. We're responsible for certain built-in gains and passive income at entity levels. Okay, so we're going to talk about this a little bit more on the next slides, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so here are the 4 main types of business structures that you need to choose when it comes to formulating your business. Like I said, sole proprietor, that's the mom and pop. That's right. Like you sell a pack of gum, Ian, the owner, sells a pack of gum, Ian, the owner, gets the 25 cents. That is one way of being of running your business. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just you're kind of leaving money on the table. All right, we'll get into that a little bit more. And not only are you leaving money on the table, you're leaving yourself exposed. So I don't like either of those things, so I choose not to use that one. But it's America, you do you, okay? So we have LLCs, we have joint member LLCs, and a single member LLC. We'll discuss that here shortly. S Corp and C Corp. The way I kind of remember S Corp and C Corp is S simple, C complicated. Whatever. That's not officially what it means, but hey, that's what I use to make things easier for me to remember. Next slide, please. All right, sole proprietorship. Here we go. I'm going to run through this quickly because I don't like it, but hey, you're going to get it anyway. It's simple to set up. You have full control and direct tax reporting. Sole profit recipient, meaning you don't have to split it up. All right, and then there's fewer regulatory requirements. If you are an LLC, an S Corp, or C Corp, the government, the tax liabilities, the IRS, all that stuff, they make you follow a certain rule book. They're not that complicated. Sometimes it's just you basically have to write a couple extra little documents per year stating that you had a meeting, that kind of thing. Not that complicated, not anything that needs to hold you back. And a good accountant will tell you what you need, so that way you make sure you maintain compliance. Compliance, compliance, compliance. Don't get out of compliance. It's a mess. All right. And then use the right people are within your network to learn to make sure that you do not go sideways. All right. So cons, personal liability. If something happens, so if I have a mom and pop store, I have a gas station, and somebody hits the gas pump and then causes a fire, and it's my fault, there's somehow negligence on my part that happened, then they can go after my personal assets. I have $20 million in an IRA that I put aside, and I've been scripting and saving, and I'm like 2 minutes from retirement, and somebody gets hurt, and they can sue me and take everything from me. There is nothing holding back your personal liability from your personal assets. Be very careful about using this business structure for that reason alone, okay? So there's limited access to capital, which means that you cannot access more sophisticated loan products. We'll get into that more. But it limits you. You can only take loans relative to your income. You cannot take loans relative to your income and the business income, for example, okay? So there is a problem with business continuity because you are the sole owner. You cannot pass along something that is the sole owner, right? Because if you go, so does that. All right, and then it is the sole reliance on the owner for everything. You cannot pass like legal responsibility to somebody else. Like if you pass away, you cannot like say that, this is the new operator of my company, right? It goes with you. All right, and then it really restricts your level of growth. Next slide, please. Bam, LLC, my favorite. Okay, so limited liability owner protection, right? So this is what creates what's called typically a corporate veil. That's kind of the buzzword that a lot of people talk about. That is not invincible, just so you know. Okay, just because you do have an LLC does not mean you are invincible, right? You don't have the Mario star. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you here is be careful and make sure you understand what's going on, because if you, the person, commits some sort of offense or negligence in the middle of conducting business, then you are exposed. So what that means is, like, if I'm driving the company van and the company van is owned by the LLC and I'm employed by the LLC, but I am, intoxicated and I hurt somebody, then I am now liable again. So make sure you're looking out for that, okay? Once again, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal or tax advice, okay? So what I want to say, it's got a flexible management structure. You can set up a CEO and that sort of thing, so that way you can be the owner but not the manager, okay? There's fewer ownership restrictions, so that way you can create more and more elaborate opportunities. So this is what I'm trying to say. If you are, don't let the future scare you from the right now. Just because you don't need a more elaborate organizational structure does not mean it's not useful to have in the future, right? Because if you're just getting started, you got your license this morning, like, yeah, you don't need a business manager because you're just getting started. But one day you may want to retire and then go live a life of luxury and then still receive passive income from the company you created. So that way you could create an opportunity where a manager is controlling a company that you still own, right? They can write checks, that whole thing, right? So, and then, like I said, it gives you potential for multi-classes of membership, right? What that means is that way you can offer different opportunities within the company, right? So if you wanted to offer somebody membership within the company, i.e. like ownership, you can, because an LLC has members, a C Corp has shareholders, right? A corporation has shareholders, right? So what we want to do here is say, for instance, if I opened a company, I have an LLC and I want my child to work for my company, but I want to start building her business credit, then I'm going to open an LLC and I can invest in LLC to have maybe a majority ownership, but a limited amount of operational authority. That's the big picture here, right? And we'll talk about that a bit more. Okay. And then you have, like I said, a limited ability. So the cons of this. All right. So cons, right? So the perpetual existence can be complicated depending on how well you set this up. But we'll talk about that in a bit more of a thing, because what that means is that way, like, so if you pass away or if you have the ability to create a opportunity for this company to extend past your ownership, That way it can be limited that way. But this is a great opportunity if you ever want to sell this company in the future. It gives you that opportunity, right? Because you can just sell your shares of a company to John Smith, who's going to pay you X number of dollars for it, okay? So with an LLC, though, you cannot sell stocks. So you can't, so you have a little bit of a restriction about raising capital. Okay, so I want you to make sure you're aware that this, if you're trying to raise a bunch of capital by selling ownership in your company, this is not the product. All right, and then there can be more administration costs than a sole proprietorship because you have to take certain procedures to make sure you maintain compliance. Okay, questions about LLCs? Put them in the chat, and then we're going to move forward. All right. So here we go. This is a really great one. I like to see about this one. So we have a couple slides here that show specific difference between an S Corp and a C Corp, because that's what we're getting into right now before we go over it in detail. All right, so look at this. So an S Corp versus a C Corp from the perspective of taxation. I know these are a little word heavy, but take a minute, just be patient with me, because I wanted to make sure you guys had this. We added it in at the last minute, but I wanted to make sure you guys got the second, right? So S Corp, you have pass through taxation. S Corp, right? What did I say an S Corp was? My little trick for remembering it. Put it in the chat if you remember. All right, S Corp. So you have pass through taxation, which means that if your S Corp receives, $100 worth of income, you, the person, will have to pay taxes on it relative to your personal taxation, right? You are considered the same entity as your LLC. So that way it makes it more simple for taxation. Thank you, John. Great job. John's the MVP this class, okay? All right, so, and then what I said, it avoids corporate tax income tax, excuse me. All right, so a C Corp, though, double taxation. Like it says right here, corporation pays taxes on profits. Shareholders pay taxes again on profits, dividends, otherwise known as dividends. So that's what double taxation is with C Corps. Make sure that you are ready for that type of organization before you engage in that. Most likely you're going to use an LLC or an S Corp. I personally use an S Corp. Okay, so ownership restrictions. All right, so S Corp, you can only have 100 shareholders, and they all must be U.S. citizens, and they only have one class of stock, which means ownership, like membership. All right, so that's one thing you got to make sure you know. Like, so for instance, if I am, if you remember, there's like limited stock and private stock with like a giant company like Walmart. Right, you can have basically a voting share or a non-voting share, right? So that's kind of how C Corps really kind of differentiate themselves, because they allow more opportunity within a more elaborate business structure. Okay, so I want you to make sure you understand the difference between those two different situations. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so investor appeal. So S Corp, right, is less attractive to investors because of the limited stock opportunities, right? Whereas C Corp is preferred for raising capital, right? So we're talking about this in context of from acquiring investors. If you're starting a company and you need to really get more oriented towards having an investor-based capital raising structure, then a C Corp may be your better solution, right? But right now, as from the context of this class, right, majority of us are real estate professionals here, trying to do, just increase our business. This may not be within your scope, but I want to make sure you understand the difference of it in case you ever have a side company that maybe you could grow for and here in the future. All right, so fringe benefits. All right, so S Corps, right? If you own less than 2%, you're only taxed on your benefits, right? Like the health insurance and those kind of things, right? But if you are a C Corp, you have greater flexibility to make sure that these benefits are a tax deduction for your employees and your shareholders. Very important thing to understand how these things affect once you start to gain more and more employees. Okay, next slide. All right, so retention earnings and corporate structure flexibility. So with an S Corp, you have a more strict structure, especially in that, like the stock ownership and like we were talking about before, about how you can only have one type of stock ownership within the company. All right, S Corp, you have more flexible situation where you can have different compensation scales and how much you can scale the number of shareholders that you have. Okay, so retention of earnings. So what that means is keeping your money. All right, this is one thing I really want you guys to focus on. So it's different to retain profits without distributing it to the shareholders, right? Because this can change your tax liability. All right, we're not going to go too deep into that because it gets into a tax class, but I want you to understand that profits are looked at differently within an S Corp, right? Whereas a C Corp can retain the earnings and then use it as a capital investment. All right, that's what I'm talking about here. All right, because you can, their money is looked at by a different set of rules. And that's the biggest thing I need to stress to you guys, is that these different corporate structures provide different opportunities relative to what sort of business operations you are going to be conducting either now or in the future. Okay, next slide. Okay, beautiful. And then qualified business income deduction, very important to realize. Okay, it's a big word for tax liabilities, right? So you can qualify for QBI, qualified business income deduction, under the IRS. I want you guys to look up what Section 19A is in the IRS. All right, make sure you look that up. We're not going into that right here. All right, but a C Corp is not eligible for this deduction. So if that applies to your business, you have an extra opportunity there. All right, and a tax rate. So S Corps are taxed at the individual income rate, which can vary, and that's why this is important. All right, so everybody, I've been moving fast through this because it's a little bit of extra, data I wanted to make sure you had, but this is a big one I want you to focus on. Your tax rate matters, and depending on which tax bracket you are taxed on can dramatically affect the amount of money that you have taken away from you. And there's nothing honorable about paying more tax than you're legally liable for. There's nothing, you're not helping somebody out. That's not what it is. The laws are the laws. You're set to follow them. There's nothing good about that. So do not pay more than you have to, right? It's just like going to the store and buying a $5 gallon of milk and leaving $7 on the table and then walking away just because it makes you feel good. All right, well, if you really want to donate, then give it to a charity, but don't give it to the government if you don't have to, because there's other opportunities that you could use it personally, right? So S Corp, you are taxed at the individual tax rate, meaning you are taxed relative to what an individual would be taxed at relative to the personal tax bracket. So if I'm an S Corp, I'm a sole owner tax S Corp, and I make over, I'm in the 27% tax bracket, but I can spend some money where it gets me down to the 24% tax bracket, then that's what I'm talking about. You are taxed relative to the individual tax bracket. However, a C Corp has its own situation, right? They have a flat rate across the board, and then shareholders pay tax relative to their dividends, hence the double taxation. All right, so that concludes this quick little Jeopardy session. We're going to keep going, all right, and get to the good stuff. All right, so corporate structure types. All right, so this is how you manage your corporation, all right, whether that be LLC, C Corp, S Corp, right? So you have operating agreements within an LLC. LLC is very important. An operating agreement states how this business is conducted. Who has authority to do what? Who has the ability to write checks? Who has the authority to make business decisions? Who has the authority to sell this company? This is where you state how ownership is ran and how this company will be, how business will be conducted. Okay, so it's the internal rules and procedures, and then it also lays out everything that's on the screen there: profit distribution, decision making, and resolution mechanisms if there is ever a situation, right? Because if there's multiple people within an LLC and we have a dispute, this lays out how a dispute will be managed. Right? Because the last thing you want to do is get wrapped up into something that takes away your opportunity to continue to do business. All right, this is not something that we want. Foreign qualification. Okay, so foreign qualification, this is great because what it does is it allows you to do business in different jurisdictions. And when I say different jurisdictions, usually that means different states. Okay, so if I have a company in California, but I'm taking investment funds from this California company and then investing it in, say, like Minnesota, then I want to make sure that I have a foreign qualification set up with that relative jurisdiction to make sure that I am within legal compliance to avoid any fines. All right, because they can shut your operation down, or you can lose all your profit and just fines and complications with the IRS. They're better at finding fault than you are, so make sure that you do everything right. All right, it can get very complicated very fast, and then usually complications require expenditure. And that's the last thing we want for your business, right? Because it slows down operations. All right, so like I said, it has to be awarded by the state, but it's not complicated to do. You just have to follow. Okay, so here we go. Corporate structure. When I say corporate structure, this means like structuring within your corporation, right? Not just like the different elements of the corporate structures. Okay, so joint venture. So this is a collaboration between two different people. So me and let's say John, we're going to go into business together. We are going to be joint partners, and we are going to accomplish a mission. Like that is the idea. It's a joint venture, right? You're combining resources and expertise. And then you have an appropriate level of agreements in place to make sure that compliance and legality is mitigated. All right, it's very important to do this. Like, hey, even if you're doing this with your best friend, your mom, your brother, your sister, whoever, like trusted personnel that you have available to you, get everything in writing. So that way there's no problems, right? Because the worst thing that you could do is to get in business and then all of a sudden you got emotional details that are ruining a relationship that was prior to this, because there's nothing more important in this world than the people you have alongside you. And money is a gritty, dirty little thing that can really mess things up. And paperwork, believe it or not, helps because you two are both going into it with a certain agreement that this is going to happen. All right. Going into business with people you know is tricky anyway, but at least this can help out, okay? So limited partner. So this is, for instance, me, I'm going to do John, I'm going to pick on you again, all right? So this is like, I have expertise. He's got the money. I go, hey, John, give me a bunch of money. He's like, cool, I trust you. Here you go. And then go forth and do great business, right? So that way I can have maybe a limited role in financially controlling the company, but I have a managerial role set up, right? So this is what you want to set up. And this is what gives you this opportunity that you don't have within a sole proprietorship. So a sole proprietorship, or sometimes referred to, and then it can be a partnership. Like there's equal representation across the board. If you're involved in this situation, you have as much rights as the other person. And that may not always be an appropriate management structure that you're comfortable with. So this is an at-will procedure. Make sure you are moving in alignment with the structure that is best suited for your company, okay? And a general partner, right? So a general, like military general, right? Controls everything. So that's what we want to do. Like a general partner can have unlimited opportunity, but could have limited financial obligations, right? So we want to make sure that this is an opportunity to be somebody who has control, but maybe not equity in the company, right? So this is something we want to make sure that we lay out appropriately, so that way you can make sure that this person has the authority without the liability that you're comfortable with. Next slide. Okay, joint member LLC and a single member LLC. So this is basically what we were just talking about before, although rephrased slightly. Okay, single member LLC, almost the same as a sole proprietorship, except it's an LLC, right? You got limited liability, but you are the sole controlling entity within that company. A joint member, right? This can be a 2% owner. This could be a 50% owner. This could be a 60-40, whatever you guys agreed to, but it's shared ownership and financial stakes within the company relative to your ownership. So this is what I'm saying. You always have financial responsibility and management responsibility, and then ownership responsibility too. You can create all these different scenarios within those three categories, whatever suits that particular investment. So as long as the people agree, it can go forward. And that's what makes the LLC such an amazing corporate structure, is because you can allocate responsibility and ownership and financial reward, etc., relative to a particular deal. So that's why I call it the sheetrock screw of the business world, because it gives you so much ability to create different creative opportunities for different types of business structures. Next slide. Okay, hiring family members. All right, so this one's a really great little bonus we're going to come into, and that's something that Tony taught me specifically. For those of you who are not 100% familiar with who we are, so myself, Tony, and Bruno, we've been here with our companies for a while. Tony's the founder of the majority of the companies, And he found out a lot of these skills that we're teaching you the hard way, and he taught us, and now we created an environment that we put it into our own companies, and we are going to share with you. Okay, so we're coming up onto the end of our hour here, so I'm going to make sure that you guys have good access to this, but I definitely want to close out with making sure that you know these opportunities for your companies. Okay, so hiring family members as employees. Sounds beautiful, right? If you got money to spend, you might as well keep it in your house. So, but this is something that I want you to be aware of because it can provide extra access for you, and it is completely within the laws of the taxation system. Okay, so, all right, everybody, I need a little bit of community engagement here, okay? So if I have a company, right, is payroll an expense to my company? Bueller? Everybody, come on, everybody put something in the chat here. If I have a company, is payroll an expense to the company's balance sheet, bottom line? That's right. Yes, it is. Okay, so put a 1 in the chat if you guys are with me. I need to kind of pull back in a little bit more engagement here. Thank you very much, everybody. All right, so payroll is an expense to your company. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate you chiming in. All right, so if payroll is an expense to your company and payroll is income being given to employees, and my children are my employees, am I basically contributing to my household's income as a tax expense? Put a 1 in the chat if you say yes. Bam, that's right. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, is that this is a way of keeping money within your household, or keeping money, like if your mom or dad, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, whatever needs income and they can provide a service and they can work for your company, then you are giving money to helping people out as an expense to your company. But this is where it can get really, really fancy, though, is that you are then paying for things. This is the idea. You are paying for things that you get to benefit from as a result of paying as pre-taxed income. Right? So if you want to pay health insurance, you want to contribute to pension plans, you want to give somebody money, you have to pay taxes on that money first and then give it to somebody. So the idea behind this is creating an opportunity within your business to hire this person and then giving them these financial benefits as a result of an expense to your payroll. If this has to be done correctly, you can't just write checks going crazy, right? Speak to your accountant accordingly. And it does have an impact about where that income does land, but it does give you an opportunity. For example, let's think about a single member LLC. You own a pizza place, you own it as an LLC, it's Ian's Pizza Place. Great. All right. So Ian's Pizza Place pays Ian 50 grand a year as a salary, but as in addition to his salary, he gets a pension contribution and his health insurance paid. So my salary is, even though I get 50 grand for salary, I still get a pension contribution and my health insurance paid as an expense to my business. So my business is paying for my health insurance. My business is contributing to my pension plan, and I'm just taking my normal salary. So this is an opportunity to utilize these funds effectively, so that way you can minimize the tax liability that you receive, and then you are also taking advantage of spending this money before. You don't have to spend it after you already paid tax on it. That's the biggest thing I want you guys to understand, all right? Put a 2 in the chat if you understand what I'm talking about, and put a 1 in the chat if you need me to explain anything. All right. Thank you, everybody, thank you for participating. It gives me a lot of help. I know it sounds like a pain in the butt, like I'm asking you guys to take away from your present duties, but this is really important. I didn't come here to just run my mouth. I really need people to engage, so that way I interact with us and engage with us, so that way I know that you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. All right. Thank you very much. And next slide, please. All right. I only got like 47 more slides, so we should be good. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so Here's a quick overview of the corporate structure benefits. All right, limited liability, asset protection, raising capital. You have something that you could sell, and you could have continuous operations, a very clear formal hierarchy of the management structure of this particular business. And then obviously you get benefits from retirement planning and funding your contribution and pension plans. So what I'm really trying to get into though, and I'll talk about this more in a different class, is that just by having a corporate structure, you also open up the ability to contribute to more sophisticated investment funds. Okay, so as a sole proprietorship, I cannot have a certain particular investment funds. I can't have a SEP IRA, for example. You need to have very specific corporate structures to open up different opportunities to have different investment accounts for your employees. Okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you here, is that by nature of having a corporate structure, you get more opportunity, and not to mention you're just not liable anymore. So it's why not? Okay, but we'll talk about this more. All right, next slide, please. Okay, continuation of the benefits, right? You have tax advantages. You have enhanced reputation, right? You look like it's something that's a little bit more official, right? So obviously, and then you have the ability to expand at a greater scale. You can transfer ownership much cleaner. You have to follow legal adherence, but that's usually for your benefit. And then you need to make sure that you have the opportunity, and this is a big one that we're just getting started into. You have the opportunity to create business credit. Put business credit in the chat. I know it's a task, but please, everyone, type business credit in the chat. And I'm going to give you a specific example of how this significantly helped me get through a hardship I was dealing with my business. Everybody, put business credit in the chat. All right. And if you're on your phone, just put BC in the chat. All right. No, that's good. All right. So everybody, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Business credit. All right. I'm going to break this down. All right. So I'm going to use my very serious voice. Okay, so what's going on? Just kidding. All right, so I had a particular struggle with my business. So the way my business is set up, I have my S Corp here locally that I handle and receive all my sales fees, sales commissions into. But then I have 3 different LLCs that own real estate. And one of these real estate companies, one of my companies that owns real estate is a rental. Excuse me. And we had to renovate this property extensively. And I got to a point where I was completely out of cash. You know, it sucks, but it was. That's what happened. It's a real thing. It was a real struggle I was going through. However, I was out of cash, though that I could invest. I wasn't out of cash, but I was out of cash that I could invest into this particular property. And I didn't know what to do, and everything else around me was too expensive. So what I did, because I had a period of income, a period of good credit with my company, my S Corp, right? I opened up credit cards. I opened up a bank account. I had a history of money in the account. I had a history of paying off my credit cards. I had a history of credit utilization for my company. I was able to get a $30,000 check within 2 days. Went to a bank, said, hey, I need some money. And they gave me a $30,000 check that I needed to be able to pay a concrete contractor to fix a major issue at that piece of real estate, which gave me the opportunity to focus on other things to be able to push that project forward. So I was against the wall, and then having this extra piece of credit that was available gave me the ladder I needed to get out of the hole. All right, and that's what it means. It's not like this is going to be the thing that saves you, but it can be an extra extra tool in your toolbox to be able to get over some sort of business obstacle. All right, so business credit is important. And make sure that if you have a business, for those of you out there who have an LLC, you had better have a business checking, savings, and credit card opened up. All right, and if y'all really are interested in, there's a couple different things I could talk about later on about different perks about credit card points, but I'm not an expert in that. You'd have to talk to some other people. But there is a huge thing. Like, for instance, I was able to purchase, the property I was just talking about is in New York State. And I'm in Southern California, so that's an expensive flight. So one, obviously, that's a tax write-off, which is tight. And two, because of all the points and things like that I used from my credit card points, I was able to get that flight for free. And I get it for free on a pretty regular basis because I put almost everything through my credit card, right? Another story, another opportunity. We'll talk about that later. Hit follow and like for more. Okay, so this leads me into our next bit of administrative tasks. All right, we're a little over schedule, but please just follow along and I'll rip through this and you guys can talk to me and ask me questions if you have more at the end. Okay, so accounting and bookkeeping. Make sure you know the difference. Okay, bookkeeping is just making sure your numbers are accurate. Accounting is tax planning. Two very different things. Bookkeeping is making sure your numbers are accurate, make sure everything adds up to the penny. Accounting has to do with planning your tax liability to make sure that you are in compliance and make sure that you are strategizing effectively. Do you talk about tax planning with your, okay, put a one in the, no, here, better yet, put a yes or a no. Do you contact your accountant on December 30th about your tax strategy for that year? No, that's correct. You do not talk to your tax planner on December 30th about ways to save taxes that year. You're almost too late. This is an ongoing situation that you need to have a regular conversation with your accountant or your tax planning professional. I should say at least quarterly, so that way, excuse me, so that way you're getting in front of any problems that could result from that. And that way you can have every opportunity of knowing what sort of advantages or liabilities are on the horizon. Very important. Don't do it, okay? Sorry, everyone's calling me right now. All right, so financial separation, we're getting that to next. All right, like I said before, make sure you take your corporate info and your corporate formation, like your LLC EIN or your S Corp EIN. And what an EIN, for those of you who don't know this, is basically your company's social security number. All right, so you take that to the bank, you take your articles of incorporation, whatever else they require, and you go to the bank, you open up a business checking and savings account, and then apply, see if they'll offer you a credit card, and then put all your stuff through there so that way you can get started. All right, start building credit. You want to do that, and then make sure you pay it off every month, just like normal credit, right? And then the real important thing I'm trying to talk about here is you want to make sure that you have financial separation between your business and yourself. All right, there's an ugly little word called commingling that gets you into a lot of trouble. All right, it's bad news, and it's honest to God, it is a big, big problem, and it can cost you a lot of money. So do not put your personal funds into the corporation without documentation. And likewise, right, if you take money out of the business into your personal account, make sure you document it. All right, you want to make sure it's fine if you do. There's nothing wrong with taking money out of your company. That's what it's there for. That's what you worked hard for. But just make sure you're tracking everything appropriately so that way the accountant can see it on their end and they can label that transaction as such. All right, next slide. All right, best practices: track all your costs, everything, gas, clothing, pens, paper, staplers, all that stuff. Make sure you're tracking everything so that way you can appropriately account for the expenditures you create, especially when it comes to the formation of your business, or if you're doing anything that has a little bit more expenditures. As real estate professionals, if you are only a real estate agent, we don't have an exorbitant amount of fees and costs along with our business, like insurances, that kind of thing, payroll, or like workman's comp, any of that. However, you want to make sure that you are doing everything you can to make sure you optimize your tax liability so you can utilize that income effectively within your business and you don't have money walking out the door for no reason, right? You work hard enough as it is for it. All right, so make sure you strictly separate between business and personal expenses and use good tools, especially for this one, like Mile IQ, for those of you just getting started. Track your mileage because your mileage matters, right? It's a big, big opportunity to write off the expense and wear and tear that your vehicle goes through. All right, and we can talk about this more, but that's like big pictures. You want to track your mileage so that way you can appropriately get that expense on your balance sheet. And then, like I said, establish pension plans through your businesses. And then and then track those expenditures to make sure that you are optimizing it, and conduct a good conversation with your tax planner to ensure that you are making the right moves, and not only making the right moves, but you're making the right moves as efficiently as possible. So that way you can maximize your opportunity for your pension growth. All right, next slide. All right, separating business personal, keep going. Tax considerations. Let's see here. Okay, so all right, so as an unlicensed realtor, you can't do this. If you guys are just getting started, you can't make certain deductions just because you haven't started this business yet, technically speaking, right? So, but if you've already started your real estate business, and you can begin having what we call a gifting strategy, right? So that way if you just have too much money at the end of the year, it must be nice, but there is ways of, basically what I'm trying to tell you is that this is something that happens more at the end of people's lives when it comes to gifting. So if those of y'all are doing this as a retirement plan or a retirement business or anything like that, remember too that when you pass away, you will have what's called an estate tax. However, to get away from this sort of basically grandeur of your estate, if your estate is so grand where you're getting into the realm of having some sort of estate tax, you can start giving away money like it's going out of style to a certain point, and the people that receive it don't have to pay taxes on it. But look that up to make sure that you are moving effectively, right? And then we want to make sure that we are looking and taking good accountability of our expenditures to make sure that we are maximizing the things that we spend our money on, and they are being classified appropriately, because that matters, right? If you go to spend gas on your vacation, that's not a tax expense. So you want to make sure that you're doing things right, okay? And then make sure you refer to every resource you can to make sure that you are moving effectively. Just going on Google, going on ChatGPT for tax advice does not fit the bill. Look at it from an irs.gov website if you've got any questions and you don't have time to talk to your accountant. Okay, next slide. All right, everybody, put your questions on the board. We are done. So Perez, our amazing videographer. Give him a big hand, everybody. All right, we're going to talk about CRMs at another date. So take a big picture. Make sure we're going to be talking about that. Social media hooks. This is all a new thing that's coming up here shortly. Let's go to the slide with the QR codes, please. All right, so everybody, all right, so this concludes our class. We do have a lot more information ready for you. We are going to be here every Wednesday. All right, so we want to make sure that you guys have every access to be exposed to us and gain from this business knowledge that we worked so hard and struggled so much to create. Like, let's face it, the majority of this information we had to learn the hard way. And thank you very much. Thank you. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. So what we really want to put into place is I got two different opportunities for you. All right. So if you are a person who is in a military area, if you're a veteran, or if you're a family member, or if you're in an area with a high military population, or if you just want to create more opportunity within your business, I want you to scan these codes on the screen. All right, so we have two different situations here. One, we have our brand ambassador certification, right? As a business owner, as a real estate professional, you need to be confident across a variety of different scenarios. And the VA loan is a fantastic niche to be able to double down on. All right, so our brand ambassador cert gives you all the knowledge that we have built together to make sure that you have every opportunity to take the VA loan and begin your journey as a VA specialized real estate agent, in addition to whatever else you may already have experience in it. But this, if you want the VA loan, you want it from our subject matter experts, because that is all we do. We want to make sure that you have access to it. And once you go through our course, you will be our designated professional in that area. So as you see, we're in front of a variety of different people. We have made partnerships with very large corporations. We've made partnerships with the Cardone family. And not to mention, we have a very vast, like, how many people we got across our social media? What, a couple million by now? A lot, right? So, and we are not getting any smaller. So we are becoming the nationwide experts on the VA loan. And we want to make sure that we have access to giving the great people that we bring into our environment. We want to make sure that we hand them off to sufficiently trained professionals in their local area. So if you want to be our professional in Houston or Miami or wherever that may be, you need to take this course and be there first, so that way you can be our primary referral partner. If you are a real estate agent who wants to sharpen the sword or is just getting started and they don't know what to do and they need mentorship, the mentorship course on the right, scan both of these codes in different tabs so you can review it. The mentorship course is a course that we developed for our agents internally to make sure that they are conducting their business appropriately, so that way they can go from zero to hero as quickly as possible in their business. And this is the proven time and time again methodology that we put to place, so that way you guys can take advantage of it also. Everybody, the Wire Mentorship course is to get better, and the brand certification course is to become a VA loan specialized agent, so that way you can add that to your toolbox. And we also offer better pricing if you take them both, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to give you one last chance. Any questions about the content or material today to go? Otherwise, I'm out of here and I'm going to start my work day. What can I do for y'all? All right. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. God bless you. Hey, make sure you're following myself, Tony, and Bruno, right? Our social medias are at the top of the screen. So please make sure you guys are giving us a follow, so that way we can give you this information on a regular basis. We're all doing our best to make sure that we provide as much of it as possible for free. So that way, hopefully you can trust us and give faith in our credibility for the future. All right. All right, everybody. So if I can give you one last piece of advice, is do it now, right? Don't think that, thinking about it is going to make anything change, right? Nothing changes without action, right? Because if you had good intention and $3, you maybe be able to get a cup of coffee. All right. So whatever it takes, get out there and start taking action. Everybody, thank you.